This week's podcast will be more of an educational one.
And as much as we're aware that Asexual Disability Day was on October 25th,
I myself am an asexual and have DCD, so we thought this would be the perfect opportunity to talk about my own experiences.
we hope you enjoy a different style of MidweekMC. Alright lads, welcome back to MidweekMC, the part of the podcast where I sit down with an amazing co-host to talk about things that happen in Minecraft this week, topics in general regarding Minecraft, or just topics in general. And today's podcast, as you can tell by the title and the pre-intro, is a topic in general. And I am joined with, as always, the amazing Captain AJX.
Oh, what an intro, Hello.
How are we
How you
doing
doing?
today? I'm doing great, thank you. Yourself?
I'm also doing great. Oh, we're in sync nowadays. We've done this so many times. We're in sync with each other.
We're such a good couple podcast hosts. I want to make that very clear. Don't worry, Debbie. I know you're probably listening to this. I'm sorry. I mean couple podcast hosts. Okay. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. However, AJX, I feel like you're quite excited for this week. You know, you're not actually, to be fair, you probably haven't really been non-stop talking about it. It's more me non-stop talking about it. But I think we've both been quite excited for this week's podcast, right?
Yes, definitely. This week, we're talking about Asexual Disability Day, which was recently, which I fall under both those precincts as an asexual and as a disabled person under the Disability Act. It's half and half. So yes, it's a podcast all about those, which you've graciously allowed me to talk about, which I'm very thankful for you for, because they're so important to me.
Well, you say I've allowed you. I mean, I know you. We discussed this when the podcast began, that we were going to be talking about you being asexual and having that disability, which I'm not going to say the name of. I'm going to let you say it when the time comes. We will get to that in a second. However, like as if it's like a big build up and a big surprise. But anyways, we already discussed that this was going to be a podcast at one point, and then I kid you not, I mean, I sent the tweet to you. Like, I was scrolling my For You page on Twitter, because I sometimes do that if I either want to cry or I'm looking for something, and and I guess the looking for something part paid off, because just on my For You page was literally a tweet about Asexual Disability Day, or even more so Asexual Disability Week, and I was like to you, what are the chances? I think it was you tweeted about it, Asexual Disability Day, so I was like, all right, this is the perfect time. And then like literally I think it was Monday before recording this podcast, it popped up on my timeline. I was like, what are the chances of that happening?
Yes, it was exactly what needed to happen. And yeah, now we get to talk about it, which I'm very excited for, as you said. I'm looking forward to it this week.
I do want to say, by the way, we are fully aware that from when this podcast is coming out, that Asexual Disability Day was about, give or take, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We kind of plan midweek MCs in advance, unless something changes last second. Like, this midweek MC was meant to be something different. It was meant to be a completely different topic, but we changed it like a week ago, or maybe 5 days ago, into this topic, which I much rather prefer. The other topic we can do at any time, but this week's, next week's, and then the 2 weeks after that, they're all already planned. They will only change last second. This is something specific, so that's the reason why this wasn't moved forward, because the last 2 podcasts, or even last 3, have had guests on. So I don't really want to. We don't really want to move midweek MC specifically guests around. We don't want to postpone people.
We don't want to get in anyone's way. Yeah, definitely.
Well, exactly. I'm grateful enough for you taking time out of your day to come on every single week, and obviously people are very busy. So
despite the 2 that I've missed.
Yeah, no, but still, this is the 9th podcast, and you've only missed 2. So
wow.
You've actually been here. So this has been around for 9 weeks now, and you've come to 7 weeks worth. So I reckon that's pretty good. I just have not even
one
really
for
a
each
lot of
day.
time on my hand. One of each day. Oh,
one for each day.
So,
yeah,
you've made up a week's worth technically. Yeah. Anyways, AJX, enough waffling about the podcast. What is asexual disability? Okay, we'll start with, firstly, so actually I should probably clarify this. I mentioned to you that I was going to clarify this. Sorry, I know I'm stalling. I don't mean to. It's not intentional.
No problem.
I know obviously a little bit about asexuality. Obviously I know what disabilities are, as well as I know the disability that AJX has. I have purposely forgotten what it means, however I know what it is. But obviously being a straight male who was, obviously I've always known about the LGBT, I've always respected it. Back in secondary school, I was very very open to learning about it, when that was that was 4 years ago now, and I feel like a lot has changed in 4 years. Like back then people weren't really too open about it as they are nowadays, at least in my from what I've seen. Like, so, and I was always one who was very open about it, but of course, I don't know everything. I'm not part of the LGBT, and like I'm constantly learning. When I joined this new community, it kind of hit me a lot because there was a lot to learn, a lot to remember. Like, I've learned a lot of new. Would it be phrases? Would phrases be the right word for that? I don't know. This is genuine. However, for the sake of this podcast, I am going to act purposely as if I have no clue what any of it means, because this is an educational podcast, I guess we could call it. I've been trying to think of a word for it, but this is more of an educational one, right?
Yes, yeah, definitely, indeed. Yeah.
With that being said, then I am going to stop taking over. Sorry. What does asexual mean?
So asexual is basically a person that has little or no romantic sexual interest in someone. You also have aromantic, which is little to no romantic interest in someone. But I fall under the term asexual, which is little to no romantic interest in a person or in anyone, to be honest. So this is sort of a scale. Basically there's different types of asexuality. I fall under demisexual, which means that I experience sexual attraction only when I've had a deep connection with someone, and then you can go from that. You can literally have no sexual attraction to anyone, which I know a few people do. And then there's a few different ways of it going, but yes, that's basically what I would say. And it's a scale, so I sit somewhere on that scale.
If you know the answer to this, once again, if you don't, it's completely fine. But how long have these terms asexual and demisexual been around for? Because once again, I want to make it very clear, I'm purposely acting not closed-minded here, but I don't have a clue, just for the sake of the podcast. But when you say that asexual and demisexual, in my head, or like if I didn't know what it meant, or if I wasn't looking at it, essentially that just means to me, you're just someone who finds it very hard to make a connection with someone, and then when you do, you're attracted to them, as like a very basic term. But obviously there's these terms behind it. So if you know the answer, how long have these been around for, and when? Because I feel like it's, once again, very, very fairly recent, as we've just mentioned, that people have been a lot more open to learning about this stuff, right? But how long has the term been around for?
I'm not sure how long actual asexual has been a term. It must be back into the 19th century, but in terms of actually knowing about it, for me, it's only been the last 6 years that I actually found out about it, in school. And I'm a bit older than you, but there was no learning about asexuality.
Aren't you, AJX?
24. There would be teachings about homosexuality, bisexuals, and so on, but there was nothing to do with asexuals. So it was really doing my own learning about it from my friend that I basically learned what asexual is, and sort of from there it was sort of I sort of fall under this. But the first term has got to be way back when, way back then.
How did you? I mean, it could be literally how I've explained it, or you can tell me I'm wrong here. But how did you, before you knew what asexual meant? Sorry, what did you just see it as? Because I'm assuming this has always been the case of you've always been asexual without knowing the term. You always have been, right?
Not really. Basically, what happened was after a few bad relationships, I sort of closed myself off.
Okay.
And I think through that, I sort of just literally turned off my brain to sexual attraction. So I just didn't want to be in any relationships. I didn't want to basically be with anyone in that way for over 5 years. So it was sort of through that, and then learning about it, going, okay, you know what, I understand, because I had relationships beforehand, and obviously I was younger, and so, as I said, the only thing I knew really was straight, gay, bi, so on.
In quotation marks, I guess, how schools used to teach it was this is not my wording, once again, to be very clear, is how they always used to call it the basics of the LGBT. All you learned was how you mentioned, you didn't really learn all the asexual, demisexual, pansexual, for example. They're just first ones that come to mind. You've
put it off straight there, because you've used the term LGBT That's all I knew.
Sorry.
That's but that's what all they taught, right?
That's all they taught
me.
That was my example. Yeah, I want to make once again. I have to be very careful because obviously I'm not part of the LGBTQ plus community, so I have to be very. But that's how it is now, isn't it? LGBTQ plus. That's how it's seen as. Whereas it was always just LGBT. It was always just that.
Yeah. So that's all I knew because that was all they taught. You know, now you have LGBT. So it's lesbian, gay, bi, trans, intersex, asexual plus, I believe, is the complete term. I may have missed. Oh, queer. I missed queer. So now it's like, it's now it's a lot more like there's so much more that you can find out about and experience, which I never got to when I was at school. I didn't know this was a thing. So yeah, I didn't. Maybe I was, but like because I didn't know what it was, I could never like put a like finger to it.
So,
but as soon as I learned about it and sort of got more understanding of it, and based on the experiences I had, I went, yeah, this feels like what I want to be, who I am.
Before you knew the term, then did you have like kind of the experience that I mentioned earlier as an example of how I would have seen it as like you just weren't really into relationships? Is that just what you just sat down and said, yeah, I don't really feel like having a relationship until there was a label for it, and you was like, actually, I fit under that label? Or like how did you feel before you knew what asexuality was, if you can remember?
So as I said, I sort of had bad relationships at that time, you know, in school and so on. So from there, basically, it was definitely like a shut off it was like I just never want to be in any relationship ever again. And sort of from that, I just went like a light switch. Sort of went, yeah, I'm not seeing anyone like that anymore. And sort of experiencing that. And the I don't want to use the term trauma when talking about a relationship, but the sort of the
just bad experiences
of bad experiences of a relationship, right? And the experience from that can really like shape you as a person, and I think it shaped me with that. And yeah, it was maybe a year afterwards that I finally heard the term ace. But going through that, you know, I still was just like, had no idea about anything. For that whole year, I was just like, yeah, I just want to be alone, basically.
Yeah, and that's completely fine, and it makes complete sense. Alongside that, you are also straight, you are also male, and I feel like it sometimes goes a bit unnoticed that asexuality is part of the LGBTQ plus community, right? Like,
yeah,
because asexuality is essentially just like not being sexually attracted to someone, but you can also be asexual while being gay or being lesbian as well, or being bisexual, for example. But like, just a lot of people don't really. I feel like not a lot of people are aware of the term. Like, I think you mentioned somewhere before, like that it's only in recent years, like that community as a whole, but more asexuality is becoming a bit more aware as like being a part of the LGBTQ plus community.
Yeah, I think it's been a huge change over the last few years, and a lot more people are now like understanding of it. But it is just it's different because you got sort of everything. You have sort of gays and lesbians and bisexuals and pansexuals all in one group. Then you got like transsexuals and intersex and so on. They all like there's asexuality is completely different to those, right? Whilst being in a group, they're all in a group together as the LGBTQIA plus community. They're all in a group together, but they are all completely different things. And asexuality sort of doesn't focus on, what your like romantic interests are. So that obviously you can have gay people that are asexual. You can have bi people that are asexual. You can have just people that are completely asexual and don't have any interest in anyone, right? So it's all sort of it depends where you fall on the scale. I keep calling it a scale because that's what I sort of see it as. Everyone sort of fits on that scale, but most people obviously fit towards the aerosexual, I believe is the term for people that aren't ace at all. So you sort of go from people that are completely asexual to their then aerosexual. I think that is the term anyway. But yes.
I don't mean to sound insensitive when I say LGBTQ plus community, by the way. I know I'm missing out the IA.
No, you're okay.
I know the IA is there, but the reason I'm saying the plus is because I don't want to mess up at any point, and just like, I just want to make sure I'm certain in saying LGBTQ plus, if that's okay with you. Once again, I don't mean to sound insensitive in any way.
I am completely okay with it.
But yeah, and then also you have a girlfriend. You do have a girlfriend, so like, you are in a relationship right now while being asexual, and you know, you're happy, and we can very much tell, and it's very nice, you know, how you said you've had like not the best of experiences in the past, so it's nice to see you doing a lot better, King, and yeah.
Yes, I think going into this year, and look, the main thing I should say is my first interaction with Debbie was based not really on like a mean-spirited joke, but Debbie had posted something about not having anyone for Valentine's Day, and I posted in the comments other applications, and look, it's sort of a /J. From there, it basically became a relationship, and I wasn't looking for one or anything. I wouldn't even say at that point like I'd fully understood that I was demisexual. I sort of had an inkling given my past relationships and so on, and the fact that I, you know, have a lot of love to give as a person. So, and you know, I am romantically interested in people. So I'm not aromantic. I am asexual.
Was aromantic again? Sorry, that is...
So aromantic means you don't have any romantic interest in people. So you can be asexual and aromantic, or you can be asexual and not aromantic, or you can be
categories. Whereas asexual is just the main, I guess, category that people use essentially.
Yeah, people tend to focus on asexuality.
Okay, all right.
But they all sort of come under maybe the ace umbrella, I would say. But yeah, so yeah, I'm a romantic person, and so I definitely did, you know, that relationship came about through that, and yeah, now we're sort of in a place where we're a lot more comfortable with each other, which is nice.
There's a lot to it in there. There's so many like different categories, and that's why I say like I'm still learning. I'm still trying my best.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, I think and that's what the nice thing is that like we're willing to learn, and that's why I wanted to make this. I mean, I know we both wanted to do this, but me being a big advocate of this as well was really good, because once again, I am a straight male. I am not part of the LGBT in any way. I do, however, use any pronouns. I guess I still don't really think that puts me in the LGBTQ+ community, but I do go by any pronouns because I just don't really mind.
Yeah,
I'm open to learn, and I'm open to use the podcast as a place for people to learn what asexuality and stuff is, because I because it's even if people do know what it means, it's still nice to come on and kind of hear it, because there's not really any. I know there is. It popped up on the Twitter feed page, which is the one I sent you, was that there is an asexual podcast. I can't remember the name of it. If I can remember it, if I remember to do this, I'll put it in the description. But you can search up like Asexual Podcast. They did one about Asexual Disability Day and Week as well. But yeah, I just feel like it's not really like something that's mentioned much by the big podcast, you know, and that's why I like MidweekMC so much, because I can use it as a space to essentially bring not awareness, but like make the topic known, I guess, you know. Or we can, not even just me, both of us. And MidweekMC's both of our projects, so.
Exactly. There's definitely not a lot of like ace celebrities out there. Some I can think of. We got two YouTubers in Alpharad and Jaden Animations. They're very open about that. You have Yasim Benotti, I think is that. I butchered that name. I'm very sorry to her. She is such a big advocate of ace and gets so much hate from loads of people, because you know, you wouldn't expect, you know, you see a lot of hate towards, you know, gays, bisexuals, trans people, so on and so forth, lesbians, all the people in LGBTIQIA community. But I haven't really experienced it until this year. I went to Pride in London to be part of the ace group there. And afterwards there was a huge backlash to her, and there still is such a backlash to her, because people don't like the fact that she, in their terms, dresses sexually.
Oh, yeah, now I know who you're on about. Yeah, because they dress because they dress in quotation marks not asexual, which doesn't really make
it's so stupid,
does it? You know,
I do not dress for Debbie. I do not dress for anyone but me. I like myself, and I like looking how I want to look, and it's the same. Any ace person should be able to look how they want to look. So yeah, that's been like my first real experience with sort of that, which has been huge for me, sort of getting judged by people outside of the community, sort of hate from people outside the community for what you are. So that's been a huge experience for me, and she's been huge for that.
I noticed at Comic-Con as well, for example, like so many people were dressing up in quotation marks revealing cosplays. I put in quotation marks revealing because that's just subject to opinion, right? But like, that doesn't mean that they want attention. Maybe people just like to dress up. It's like when people dress up for Halloween, they'll post pictures because they feel like they look good. Like I was I'm very thinking when I post my face. I said it even after TwitchCon. If I get a picture of someone and I don't think I look nice in the picture, I'm gonna cover my face even if I still want to post it. And it's just like, I don't post online because I mean, I've only posted online when I've met people, but I don't post online to be like, yeah, look at me, look how good I look. I post online because I think I look good. And that's why when people like dress up for Halloween, for example. Halloween was yesterday, right? And a lot of people were dressed in quotation marks in revealing clothing, and a lot of them didn't do it for other people. They did it for themselves because they wanted to dress up like that. You know, just because you're asexual, just because you're not asexual, it's weird to be judged on the way you dress. I remember, I know who you're on about now. As soon as you mentioned that, I realized who you was on about.
Yeah, so there hasn't really been any like big advocate for it, so that's why it's so like big for me being on the podcast and getting to talk about it. Because I found out through my friend, and that's like they eventually we used to play D&D in a group. It was within like the first 4 weeks of playing in that group, they told us that they were asexual. So, and then from them, I learned from them what that means and so on. So being able to talk about it is huge.
Like a lot of people might not know until they hear it. Like a lot of people, you know, so you listening might not right now, you might be asexual. You just don't know it because no one's ever really told you what it means, or hasn't told you their experiences with being asexual. Now that AJX has said their experience, you might be able to relate, for example, you know? Yeah,
and it can be very like
scary,
dark, but scary and dark, just not knowing, right? Just being unaware completely, and actually being able to put a label on something. I think we'll come to that during the disability section as well. Being able to put a label on something that's happening to you or that you feel is so relieving. There you go, thank you.
I'm going to give my example because I also have an example of this as well. So once you're done with your segment, I'll show how
go for it. That was pretty at the end.
Oh, sorry, I feel bad if I cut you off, my bad.
But no, you didn't know.
Okay, good. But it's kind of the same with me, for example, right? Like obviously not the whole LGBTQ plus part and stuff like that, but I mean more so like being able to put a label on something through, and I've said this a few times, it's not something I've mentioned loads. Maybe I haven't said it on the podcast, I don't know, right? I've never really gone into detail with it, but I'll go into a little bit of detail with it. Next week's podcast, I'll be going into a lot of detail with this, so stay tuned for that. AJX knows where it is and I know where it is, but it's something we will get to talking about next week, of course. But I have undiagnosed anxiety. It is very much there, the anxiety. It is undiagnosed because I don't want to get diagnosed. I just don't want to have it. But I know it's there. It's one of those things. But through the entirety of year 7, I used to be mainly bile. I used to be sick in the mornings. I actually had a mentor, and I still remember how every single morning I'd go to him and he'd had this horrible strong smell of coffee, right? I still remember everything. He was great. He was a great mentor. He was all right, man. Anyways, but through the entirety of year 7, it was just labeled as nerves, right? Even my mentor was labeling it as nerves, and my parents are very thingy of it. Like they knew, but they didn't. My parents are very, very supportive of it, which was very lucky, and they were very like nice about it all and stuff like that. And they worked through it with me. Obviously, if your son's being sick every single morning, it's a bit of cause for concern, right? And then we went to the hospital doctors to see if I had something wrong with me, in quotation marks, wrong with me, like a health issue, I should say, not in quotation marks. If I had a health issue, there we go, and everything came back negative. I was completely fine. Then there was also the thing of if I was being sick every morning, I was going to cause like head lining in my stomach. That was also something they said. But up until like I was in year 10, it was when we actually started using the label of anxiety. And as soon as we started using the label of anxiety, it made me feel better, because like it made me realize that it's not me being silly. It's not me, being nervous for no reason. There is actually something wrong with me, and it's anxiety. And we were gonna go and get diagnosed. But it's just something I didn't want that over my head. I didn't want it over my head that you are guaranteed to have anxiety. That's why I always say I'm diagnosed. And and since it's been labelled, it's gotten so much better over the years. Like I'm now going to TwitchCon. I'm now going to, I'm now going to all these events. I'm now planning to meet up with people. It's nice because, and I feel like putting a label on it made life so much easier and made it so much better for me to essentially grow as a person. Because when I started work when I was 18, I didn't get sick in the morning. mornings, but I was always coughing. I was always gagging. Every time I have like an interview or something, I'll start a new job. First like week or two, I'm always coughing. I've got this really heavy cough in the mornings. Because it's like nerves or anxiety. But it's been a lot better as I've grown up because I've learned how to deal with it, because I know it isn't just, once again, me being silly. There is actually something there. And I guess it's like, once again, with the whole asexuality and what we're going to get into now as well with the disability, because there's something there. It's not you thinking in your head or constantly battling with yourself that you're the problem. It's something that everybody has. Like people, not everybody has, but people have anxiety. People are asexual.
That's that. You know what? That's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I like that.
So what is it? What is the name of the disability that you have?
So my disability is called DCD, which is a neurodivergency or divergence.
What does DCD stand for?
DCD stands for Development Coordination Disorder.
Okay.
So it's foggy, right? Because in some place under the law it count as a disability, but it's in the Disability Act. It's all sort of like we don't actually want to give these people a full-on disability. So you know that's always been a struggle. But I think for me it should count as a disability, especially considering what it is. So development coordination disorder is basically a motor condition that starts in childhood and affects your motor skills completely. It's very difficult to like fully understand, but basically my coordination skills are bad because stuff that goes through my eyes doesn't exactly match up with my brain, and therefore I struggle to do like stuff from running to catching to my handwriting's awful, and you have a bunch of other stuff that it can really affect. And in childhood, like it tends to just be like called clumsiness basically, but it is a lot more than that. And yeah, DCD affects about 5% of the population, so it's a lot less rare than you think. And especially because
that's still rare though. 5%, that's like what?
It's definitely rare.
How many people that would be? That's like
1 in 10, I think, or 1 in
1
in 20. 1 in 20. 1 in 20.
Oh, never mind. Then that's what I thought, because we had I had Shreeber on the podcast like a few months back, who has chromesthesia, and that's every 1 in 1,000 people.
Ah, wow. Oh, Jesus.
So yeah, I thought it was a lot of 1 in 20 is very not rare at all, actually. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a neurodevelopment disorder, and the fact is no one really knows about it compared to, you know, you've got stuff like dyslexia and my mind's blanking on all the rest of the neurodivergence.
There's a good few. I mean, my
ADHD, you know.
ADHD is one. There we go. Yeah.
You have so many that are sort of like more in the spotlight than DCD.
Ones, I guess the popular ones.
Yes, yeah, that's the weird thing. Like even in some like graphs, you won't have dyspraxia there when they're going through like the different types of neurodivergence. You know, ADD, Tourette's is all sort of linked into neurodiversity, and DCD is sort of just like pushed to one side. At least I feel like that way. Growing up with it, a lot less people know about it, and
I didn't know about it. I'll be one of the first ones to admit that when you told me about it, I kept forgetting the name, which wasn't in a bad way. It's not I don't care way. It's just I just could, for some bizarre reason,
it's difficult when you first learn the name of something. So yeah,
I know, but like with like anxiety or like, you know, Tourette's or something, it's you remember it, you know. But with DCD, I guess because it's an acronym as well. Like I couldn't even remember the acronym is what I'm trying to get at. I couldn't even remember these. I kept saying I kept saying ADD or something, didn't I? If you can remember.
Which is a different thing.
Yeah, exactly. But that goes to show that it wasn't because I was inconsiderate. It was just something I just couldn't seem to remember.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, basically I don't remember a time where I haven't been diagnosed with DCD, and DCD affects it in so many more ways than just motor conditions, because basically your whole body is going through a sensory overload all the time, and it's having so much difficulty moderating the amount of sensory information in your body. So that can lead to people having anxiety. I myself have anxiety due to my DCD. You have depression, and then there's a bunch of different things. You can also get DVD, which is development verbal dyspraxia, which basically means you struggle to speak, my brother had that. He didn't speak until he was about 4.
Okay.
So it can have a massive effect. And then you obviously can link up with different stuff like dyslexia, like dyscalculia and so on. And yeah, it's a lot bigger than just the fact that I struggle with my motor motor skills completely. Like it can become all encompassing, basically.
So what age were you diagnosed with OCD then?
I think I was about 4, so it was that young.
Oh, so it was quite early on then. So I guess that's
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember not being diagnosed with it. So I'm guessing at 4. Basically, my parents were probably worried about my bounce, which is the main thing. Dyspraxia or DCD. I should say it used to be called dyspraxia. That's why I tend to say dyspraxia.
Okay. I mean, it's fine with
nowadays.
We know that now.
DCD, so. Yeah. That was basically just called clumsy child syndrome. It's basically just your child's clumsy because they can't walk very well. Back in the day, and obviously as more things have as science has bettered itself, as more people have become more accepting of things, it's now an understanding that there's something actually happening in the brain that is affecting a person's ability to do this stuff. So even from a small age, I would struggle walking, running, so on, huge sweeping things like that. And even now, I just cannot write at all. My writing is so my writing is the equivalent of like the handwriting in particular. I can write. It can cause some pain, but that's because with dyspraxia, you could also have a difficulty establishing a correct pencil grip. And so it took me ages to establish that. It took me ages to learn how to use a knife and fork properly. And I still actually use it the opposite way of my hands. So I use most people use their dominant hand for their fork and their weaker hand for their knife or something like that. I hope I'm getting that right.
When they're cutting.
But I actually use it the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah. So normally I believe when it's cutting that people use. I mean, I think it's normalized that people use their dominant hand with their fork when they're cutting something. But I do the same thing you do. I use my weaker hand for the fork.
Oh, there you go.
I guess to be fair though, I used to eat rice with my hands, and I still sometimes do.
Okay,
so I think I'm just a bit of an interesting character in general.
It can be from those types of things to. It's a real difficulty for me determining my left and right. So and knowing where my body is. So driving a car can be difficult because I always think I'm way too close to a car alongside me because my spatial awareness isn't very good.
But you do drive though, don't you?
Yeah, I do drive. Yeah, and I'm a very good driver as well. It's not like DCD has completely stopped my life in doing stuff. It's just made it so much more difficult. Yeah, it's through the years, learning stuff has just been it's so much more effort to learn through dyspraxia. So it's always been there for me. But the amount of stuff that I had problems with, and for me, it's certain things. Right, there's a whole spectrum of things you can have difficulties with DCD, and some of the things I'm good at. So there's some things, creativeness I'm good at. My long-term memory is very good. My short-term memory is awful, but still. So there's different things that you can be good at, there's different things you can be bad at, so they all sort of fall under how much you've learned through them and how you've learned through them. My bounce nowadays is amazing as well, so
It's interesting though to hear all that, because once again, using Schreiber as an example here, it's just because I had them on the podcast, that's why, sorry. But I believe they said today chromesthesia wasn't diagnosed until it was after secondary school. So they just thought it was normal. They thought the fact, because chromesthesia is essentially when you hear a sound, you see a flash of color in a certain shape in your eyes, right? That is the rundown of what that is. And they just thought everybody had that because nobody talked about it. And then once again, this is why this podcast I feel is so good. We talked about asexuality, we talked about DCD, so someone could be listening to this who struggles with balance or struggles with writing and reading and just categorized themselves as dyslexic, because that can happen. Because as soon as you were explaining that, in my head, one of my things were that can just very easily be categorized as dyslexic, because it can be, right? But it's more than that, and that's what I'm saying. I feel like talking about it now is good to bring awareness to it again. But yeah, that's crazy hearing all of that, hearing everything to do with that. And it's are you fortunate though that your parents got it diagnosed quite early on? I assume the answer is yes. guess, but I thought I'd ask anyways.
Yeah, I think it's fortunate. I think it's a lot more like they really sort of ignore it in adults completely. It's mainly focused on having it in children, to the point that on the NHS website it is to do with DCD in children rather than DCD in adults, and there is now a DCD in adults page, but for ages it was just DCD in children. So the fact that I got it done very early was massive to me, because now I understand way more why I have it and like learning through it. Basically, I had what were they called? I'm not sure. There's like a technical name for them in hospitals, but I had someone, basically a doctor, who would help me through like learning to bounce, basically doing my shoelaces, which could be an issue because for me, like I'm trying to do it, but my brain just can't like comprehend what I'm doing with my hands. So that was always like a difficulty doing my shoelaces, and I had Velcro for so many years, but eventually I had to learn how to tie my
Velcro slaps, shoes. To be fair though, like
it does slap.
Let's not sleep on Velcro. All right, we're not gonna sleep on Velcro now.
yes, exactly. But it was for ages and ages that I just had no idea. And I mean, we talked about the fact that asexuality sort of not really been a thing, but it has like been in history texts for a while at least, whereas like the DCD was like first referred to like way we're talking like 1970s 1980s, so it's honestly quite a new thing. And the fact that it was around just in time for when I was sort of growing up and sort of understanding people with dyspraxia was massive.
I know you've kind of answered the question anyways, but if there's anything else to add to it, like how does it affect your everyday life? Like, because obviously you have a, in quotation marks as per usual, a real job, just because I hate saying that, but it's the best way to generalize it. And like how does it have any effect on your job? Because yours is mainly online as far as I'm aware, like on a laptop, on a PC, so it makes it easier that you don't have to write stuff. But does it affect you in your day-to-day life regarding work? Or
so from a perspective, you talk sort of about it with anxiety. That's a big issue for me, the anxiety point of view. So it's sort of exactly the same as you. I feel sick as well, and then just completely can encompass me. But in terms of like DCD proper, from waking up, it can be, you just putting on your socks can be slightly more difficult. Driving to work can be slightly more difficult. Typing on a keyboard, it took me ages to learn to type on a keyboard. And in fact, the only reason I learned to type on a keyboard, because obviously I didn't want to write my handwriting because I was so bad and no one could understand my handwriting. So they wanted me to use a keyboard, and it took me so long to like get where all the keys were and so on and understand it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I don't want to. I'll just write and people are going to have to understand. But it was actually learning through like playing Minecraft and having to type on Minecraft servers that I learned how to type better. And so that was a huge thing for me. And now I can like just type. I can just look at the screen and type. And yeah, it takes me a bit longer than it probably takes you to like type out a word. But through time, through experience, it is a lot better. There are still things that affect me and that I need to accept affect me, right? Because I think a lot of it has been me sort of being ableist to myself and going, nah, DCD doesn't do anything. It's sort of not there. But there's like so much that is happening there that I just sort of, that I'm struggling with because of the DCD, that I need to accept and need to be like, yeah, okay, I'm doing this is happening not because there's like anything wrong with me, it's because of this DCD thing. And in a way it sort of defines me as a person as well, in a funny way, because I've had it all my life, because it's such a huge part of my life. I am dyspraxic, and I sort of like want to put it out there what dyspraxia is, have a better understanding of it, raise more awareness of it, because as we talked about, there isn't really anyone that talks about it. So yes, it's day-to-day lives can be slightly more difficult, but through time, through learning, you can get better. I would like to point out, I think I'm at the midpoint of maybe DCD. You can get to a point where it just can completely ruin your life and you can't do do anything. So I'm in quite a good place with it. I think if maybe you learn about it too late or it's not dealt with entirely well, it can like make it so you can't do much, which is very sad.
Yeah. I guess to like add to that, it's just a generalized for you, the viewer listening. If you ever feel like there is something and you feel like it should have a label, not something wrong with you, but just something that you don't think is normalized, I guess, or normal. I can't think of the wording here, so don't take that out of context. But you know what I mean. If there's ever anything and you're concerned, please don't be afraid to just go and have a checkup or go and see someone, right? Because like this is literal proof you said about the whole it's more normalized in children. If you're listening to this and you're 20 years of age, something might have not been normalized when you were 3 years old and it's normalized now. So if there's anything you're concerned about or anything you're worried about, please use this podcast as a lesson to go and check. Just go to the doctors, tell them what's up, and just go from there. You know, like it can't hurt, right? You're not hurting anyone. You're not wasting anyone's time. It's like if you have a stomach ache for 2 weeks, right? You're not just gonna ignore it. You're gonna go and get it checked because having a stomach ache is not normal. You know, it's kind of just I guess it's not a perfect comparison, but I hope this podcast has kind of shown you guys that it's not bad to go and check out. I mean, when I was being sick every single morning, we went to make sure it wasn't to do with my health, which it wasn't. But had it have had to do something with my health, then we could have worked on it. So just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go and get it checked. Don't be afraid to reach out to people around you and ask if, for instance, like if it was never like if you never knew anything about it, AJX, you could reach out to me and other people and be like, do you have this? Do you have the same thing? And if every single one of us had said no, you would have never known unless you asked, So
yeah, exactly. And sometimes, look, I feel like there's a lot of people that have experienced this. Sometimes doctors aren't useful, right?
Oh no.
Sometimes I'm
facing it with something right now. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah, sometimes they aren't useful at all. I've gone to a doctor about depression, and they sort of just went, no.
It's a bit sad, isn't it?
Yeah, basically they were like, why are you wasting my time? And that is awful. What an awful doctor. So don't accept one medical person's opinion on it, because sometimes they're wrong. They are not always right. They are not these deities. So yeah, make sure to. I know we don't want to say self attribute yourself to a disability or whatever, but also if you feel like you have anything that's ailing you, it's worth a check. I think they're there for a reason, doctors. Obviously it's to make you healthy, but understanding something that is you feel is wrong with you can make you healthy mentally.
Exactly. I think that's a perfect way to put it. Thank you, AJ.
Mm-hmm.
I guess then a question that I should ask, or want to ask even, is how does Asexual Disability Day and the LGBTQ plus month and Asexual Week, which is Asexual Day, falls on your birthday, I believe you said?
It does, yes.
How does this all impact you?
I would like to say Asexual Day wasn't on my birthday until after I was ace, so that was a happy coincidence.
That's interesting.
They put it in after, yeah.
What does this all mean to you? There we go.
All this stuff is so just feeling a part of a community, feeling like there's other people out there. I only have one ace friend, which is the ace friend I've talked about before already. I have no one I know apart from my brother who has DCD. Finding out other people are having the same struggle as you. Other people have the same sort of idea as I'm trying to, because I don't want to call asexuality a problem. It is not. Sort of have the same
thing, I guess.
Identity.
There we go.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the perfect thing. So that is just wonderful, and finding that out, and then from there you can take it and you can basically feel part of a community. That is so massive, and I think all these days just not only do they obviously make you feel part of a community, but they boost knowledge of that thing. So Pride Month should be all about teaching people knowledge. It shouldn't be about corporations having rainbows on their logos and so on. It should be about teaching people what it is to be part of the LGBTQIA community plus community. Being ACE Week, ACE Day should all be about teaching other people and being part of a community, being part of the community and teaching people about the community, getting the word out there. And the same goes to disability, Asexuality Disability Day. It should be about celebrating those individuals that are ACE, that have a disability, celebrating as a community, teaching as a community, and being a community.
Very well said, AJX. Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else to talk about? Anything that I haven't asked and you wanted to mention? I've tried my best to ask everything I can, but is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
If you are interested in any of these, I would go look on the website. I mentioned some celebrities that are ACE. Jaden Animations has, go look on the internet. Jaden Animations has a wonderful video about being asexual that I truly think you should go. Everyone should watch. In terms of DCD, there's a bunch of celebrities that have DCD, from Daniel Radcliffe to Cara Delevingne to Florence from Florence and the Machine, and Will Poulter and Mel B. Bunch of people. So you can learn about them. That's actually I feel a funny tidbit to say is in the second Harry Potter movie, Daniel Radcliffe obviously writes in the diary, or Harry Potter writes in the diary for the Chamber of the Secrets. That isn't actually Daniel Radcliffe because his writing was so bad that they couldn't use it. Oh. So that's an interesting thing to mention.
Writing. Beautiful.
Yes. Obviously, also I should say I'm free to talk about these things because they mean so much to me. If you ever want to talk about that, I would be more than happy to.
And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to either myself if you can't get in contact with AJX, or AJX if you have a question. And, you know, the podcast Twitter account messages are open. If you have a question regarding it all, you can always message me. I'll pass it on to AJX, and AJX can be a respect towards you. And if, you know, you listen on Spotify, you can head over to the YouTube comment section. If you're watching on YouTube, you can just scroll down. You know, AJX is asexual, AJX has DCD, so they are like one of the perfect people to ask about it. Eh?
Yes, and even if it isn't DCD, other disabilities, I'm more than happy to talk. So yeah,
there we go. Yeah. Perfect, AJX. I think this has been a really, really good podcast. Thank you so much.
Yes, well, thank you so much, InsaneOrbitzz. It's been wonderful.
I will say now, I'm not going to say what next week's podcast is, but there would have been an announcement about it on Saturday from when this podcast is coming out, so last Saturday, and then the Saturday coming up from when we're recording this, AJX, you know about anyways. This podcast, as well as the next one, are going to be more serious ones. Next podcast is going to be a bit more hard-hitting, and I'm going to be able to talk a lot more about it. We are also going to be joined by a guest, hopefully. If they can't make it, it'll just be myself and AJX. But yeah, this isn't always going to be what Midweek MC is like. However, you know, I want to do more serious topics, you know. That's why I introduced the idea of it, because InsideMC is interviewing Minecraft guests, but I want Midweek MC to be a place where we can talk about general topics, general Minecraft topics, things that happen in Minecraft that week, and just topics like this one, even if they're a bit more serious. And I think we smashed it. I think we smashed it out of the park, AJX. I think we did a really good job.
Yes,
and it was nice,
wonderful.
As you know, you're such an amazing co-host. It was nice to kind of give you the floor, and I'm sorry if I cut in at certain points and talked a bit much. It's just
no, don't.
The habit of being the podcast host. You know, I have a bad habit of doing so. However, I hope I kind of gave this as a floor for you to talk about you, because this is literally your territory. So I'm glad
thank you so much. Yeah, it was wonderful.
But with that being said, this sadly brings the end of another Midweek MC. I hope you all enjoyed. We hope you all enjoyed. And once again, if anything is of any concern to you, and you know you want to make sure that everything's all good, please do not be afraid to go to doctors. Or I mean, if you have a phobia, obviously, completely different story. I'm not not trying to be inconsiderate. I just mean, so like, please reach out to somebody, message one or two mates. You know, if there's something that you think might not be of the norm, quotation marks. Once again, because you know, it's like a work, AJX. We're not allowed to call dairy milk normal milk because it's inconsiderate. I mean, I drink oat milk. I don't drink dairy milk. I drink oat milk because I'm not lactose intolerant. I just can't drink milk, which is weird. But I can have dairy and stuff. But I don't call it that anyways. But my colleagues call like dairy milk normal milk, and we're not allowed to do that anymore. So that's an interesting, fun fact to see off the podcast, I guess. So you know, just if anything's of any concern to you, just reach out. And if you have any questions, AJX is open. I am open. And yeah, would you like to do the outro this week, AJX, or should I see it out?
You see it out, King.
Because you saw it in, yeah? Okay. This has
I'm just
been-
trying to.
Huh?
I was just trying to remember it.
I mean, how about this? I say it and you repeat after me, and we can keep the
Okay,
entirety
okay.
of this in the podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
What
do
is
it.
This has been
This has been
Midweek MC.
Midweek MC.
Thank you all for watching.
Thank you all for watching.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Don't eat too much bread.
Don't eat too much bread.
Pieces.
Peace.
There we go.